Okay, we are live. Hello everybody and welcome to this week's webinar. My name is Jimmy Risch and I am a developer here at Qdabra. I'm one of the developers on our Forms Viewer product and basically the lead of that effort. So today we're going to be talking about metadata and term sets. For those of you who are not familiar with term sets, basically SharePoint has a built-in feature for setting up hierarchical taxonomies for organizing your information. So what I'm going to go through today is first of all show you how you can set up one of those hierarchies in SharePoint. Then I'm going to show you how to set up your InfoPath forms to query that information into the form using QRules, and then I'll explain how you can use that to set up a cascading dropdown to pick a series of tags drilling down into lower and lower rungs of the hierarchy. I'll show you how to submit that to a managed metadata column in a list, and lastly I'll show you how you can search list items using that information. So let's get started. So just a little plug for Forms Viewer. As many of you probably know, we have a product that's been around for about a year or two at this point. It's called Forms Viewer. It allows you to fill out your forms in the browser on SharePoint, basically to give you an alternative to the built-in browser form functionality that has been deprecated and will be going away eventually. So first of all, what are the benefits of term sets? The few good things about them is, first of all, they're built in. You don't have to reinvent the wheel and come up with your own system for defining hierarchies in your lists or whatnot. They're localizable. They have functionality for allowing you to specify tags in multiple languages. We're going to take a quick look at that during this presentation. They're stored in a centralized location, so you know right where to go and find them, and they're integrated into search, which is really nice when you're looking for things. So first of all, let's look at what it takes to get them set up. So I'm going to switch over to my browser and just make sure there aren't any questions that people can hear me. All right, so here we are in SharePoint. I'm just on my demo site where I'm going to be demoing this functionality, and I'm going to duplicate this tab. So first of all, we got to make sure that you have the necessary permissions to modify the term sets. So what I'm going to do is click this icon up here and then go to Admin. This takes me to the Office 365 Admin Center, the admin portal. If you're on an on-premise SharePoint environment, it's probably a little different, but probably a similar idea. I haven't gone through that myself. So now that we're at the admin center, I'm going to expand these admin centers down here and go to the SharePoint one. And here we are at the SharePoint admin center, and I'm going to go to Term Store. And here is the global settings for our term store. So here you can see term store administrators, and we've got 2 people listed here and a check names icon. This is where you would usually list yourself. Interestingly, if you're even if you're a global admin or a site collection admin, you still need to be added to this list in order to work with the term sets. So I'm already added there. I'm all set. So I'm going to close this tab. Okay, so that was setting permissions. Next is to actually create the hierarchy. So as I said in the previous slide, the nice thing is that this is in a centralized place where you don't have to go looking for it too much. I'll duplicate this tab again, because I want to go back there later. So you just click the gear icon, go to site settings on any site basically, and then if you look at site administration here, the 8th item is term store management. And so I'm going to go there. This is actually basically the same as what I showed in the admin center. So you could do the same thing there. This is easier to get to because you just go into the site settings and it's one click. So this is what I'd recommend using most of the time. And for this demo, we've set up a hierarchy called QRules commands. So basically, the way the terminology goes is the top level things are taxonomies, I believe. Then the next level is called a term set, which is basically a group of tabs, and then tags, that is. And then within there, you can have tags nested as deeply as you want them. So here we have DAT is nested 1 level deep, DBXL is nested 2 levels deep, and so on. So if you don't have one already, you can just create a new group. I guess they call them groups. So my new group, and there you go. Okay, but today we're going to work with this QRules commands group, this products one actually. Okay, so that's how you get into the term store management tool and look at the term store, and you can add new tags like this. I'll just create a DBXL version 3.1 right there. Okay. All right, on to the next slide. Okay, so the next thing you need to do is create a managed metadata column in one of your lists. And the interesting thing here is that this can be in any list or library, basically. You need to have this so that your InfoPath form can query the list information to get data about the managed metadata. That's the way we've set up the feature to work in QRules. So let's go over to a list. Here I've got a list called leads. This is what we're going to be demoing today. It's a list of basically customer leads and what products they're interested in using. So I already have 2 metadata columns here, so I'll just go through the steps of creating one. It's very simple. It's just like creating any other column, almost the same. That is one extra step. So let's see, I'll call this product 2. We're going to select Manage Metadata all the way at the bottom. It's going to refresh the page a little bit. And then here I have term set settings. So I'm going to search for products, which is the one I'm using for this webinar today, and search. And no, I want products plural. There we go. So I would select that, and I would just come down here and click OK. I'm not going to click OK because I already have 2 columns. Don't want to knock anything out of place, but that is what we would do if you were adding your own. So I'll click Cancel here. And before we go any further, I just recalled there was one poll I wanted to ask you folks before we get started, so I'm just going to put that up here. Just how many of you have used term sets in SharePoint? Keep that up for about 15 seconds. All right, I think we've got everybody answered. So what I see here is 25% of you have said yes, 75% said no. And okay, so this is new to all of you. Okay, sorry about that delay. All right, so here's a brief overview of how to set up term sets in your form. So the first thing to do is inject QRules into your form with term set APIs. Let me just open up the QRules injector here, and we'll see that if you're injecting into a form, there's a checkbox here to include term set APIs. What that gets you is basically the most important thing is that you get an extra data connection in your form that you can use to interact with the term sets, and we're going to see that very soon. The next thing is to add a get term sets data connection. So let's just walk through the initial steps of that as well. So here's my form. I want to add a data connection. I want to receive, and I'll go over to my site, and I want to go to the site URL /_VTI_bin /taxonomy client service. Specific service for interacting with the taxonomies, and then I would just add a get term sets method here. I've already got one, so I'll just keep the one I've already got, but we can see that here, get term sets. The next step is to add one more data connection called a get list data connection. Some of you may have used list.asmx when setting up SharePoint list mappings, but similar to just what I just showed you, you would create a SOAP receive connection to list.asmx. You would pick the get list method and then not select any parameters. We're going to be distributing a bit of documentation explaining how to use these features, so all the details in there, but as a quick overview to make sure you're going through the right steps. This is basically what you need to do to get your form ready to use the term sets. So once you've injected QRules, you've added those two data connections, now you need to add a bit of form logic, some rules to run the necessary commands to load the term sets into your form. So first thing you're going to do is use get term set IDs. So we can see a good place to do that is on the finished loading field in QRules, Qdabra rules data connection. Well, we've got a bit of stuff that's already in here from the default, by default from the Forms Viewer starter template, and then this fourth rule down here is very simple. All I'm doing is calling get term set IDs with a list name of leads. That's the list I showed you a moment ago, and basically what QRules does when you pass it that command is it goes off to the get term sets data connection that you set up, uses it to query that leads list and get the necessary information it needs, and basically populate some IDs regarding term sets. And then once you've queried that information, there's one more rule to query called get term sets. This one, if you've used all the default data connection names, you don't need to pass it any parameters. You just call get term sets. And this uses those IDs you loaded in plus the get list data connection to query information from the list and load information about those term sets into your form. All right. So now, once you've got this, your form's running, it's got the term sets information loaded into this data source, Qdabra rules _ term sets. So here we are. Now this this data connection, it has a lot of weirdly named stuff in it. It can look a little daunting, and I'm going to go through basically what you need to know in order to use this, and sort of distill it down to the most important bits you need to know. So before we go to this slide, let's take a quick look at what the XML looks like. So similar to what I just expanded there in the form, we've you got Qdabra rules, term sets, get term sets. It's pretty straightforward down to about the 4th level. And then you get stuff with the really short names that doesn't seem to really be very self-explanatory. So, but basically what we have here is that each of these T's is one tag in the term store. This A9 attribute directly on the T is the ID of each tag. The A32, which is a few levels down, is the display name of that tag. A40 is basically a path up to that tag. So we can see down here, this standalone is the DBXL 3.0 standalone tag. So going down through the hierarchy, you'd go DBXL 3.0, and then this one would be standalone 3 levels down. And again, there's its ID and A9, and A25 is the ID of its parent. So you see A25 corresponds to this A9 up here for the 3.0 tag. So it's a bit daunting at first, but you only need to know a few vital parts to know what's going on here. Just these basically 4 fields: A9, A32, A40, and A25. And so here on the previous slide, I've put together a little cheat sheet where you can use to find whatever it is you're looking for. So again, T is all the terms, A9 are the term IDs, A32 is the term names, 25 for the parent IDs, and 40 for the paths up to the parents. I know this stuff is a bit confusing, so if you have any questions, just throw them out. I may not notice them right away, but I'd rather answer anything that's keeping you stuck at this point rather than plow on forward. So just let me know. Anything of a more general nature we can address at the end. Okay, so back to the form. So the concept of this form here is, again, I just simple demo form to gather leads for customers. So I've got some straightforward fields, a customer, an email address, a phone number, and then this product drop down here is where we're actually going to be using the term store. And before we dig into the details of how that works, why don't we just take a look at the form so we see what we're dealing with here. So I'm going to go back to the site main page, and I've set up a little link here to open up the form. Okay, so my coolest customer, cool@customer.com, 111-222-3333. All right, so here's my product dropdown, and we can see that it has loaded in those 4 categories from the term store top level tags: DAT, DBXL, forms viewer, and QRules. So I'll go ahead and pick DBXL since that's the most deeply nested one. And then I'm going to go with 3.0 and standalone. And you can see here that as I select the drop-downs, it goes along adding new drop-downs below it until there are no more levels to go down. And if I switch to another hierarchy, it should, it deletes everything below them and then adds a new row for the next one, so that you don't have any weird values hanging out. All right, I'll go ahead and submit that. All right, so how did that work? Let's go over to the form. And okay, so now we'll see those various strangely named fields in action. So I've got this is a repeating section here. It's just bound to a repeating group in my main data source. I've got 4 fields just to keep track of everything that's going on. Term ID is the ID of the term that's selected in the dropdown. Term is the display name. Term path is the path up to this selected term in this current row. And parent path is the path of the parent. So first of all, we've got this drop down here, and I'm populating it from the Qdabra rules term sets group. It's bound to that T group, which is the one that stores the terms, as I mentioned earlier. And for the value, I'm using A9, which is the ID, and for display name, I'm using A32, which is the display name. Now I've got a little filtering here on the drop downs to make sure that they show only the ones in their own in the relevant rows. So here I've got A40, and just to reiterate, A40 is the parent path, the path of a term's parent up to a term's parent, and I'm filtering to where A40 of a particular term is equal to the parent path of the current row. Now what does that parent path do? Basically, I've got a little default value formula here to take the path from the previous row and copy it into its own row. So as I go down, the first row is going to have a blank parent path because it doesn't have any parents. The second row will have the path of just the row above it for that one term. The third row will have a path for the first 2 rows, and so on. And they'll just copy down bit by bit like that. And the last piece of the puzzle is the rules here on the term ID. So first I'm setting the term name and path. So the term is just grabbing the A32 value that corresponds to the ID of the selected for this term ID field. And then I'm running this QRules command called getTermPath with the current ID, and that is a command that QRules uses to go off and get the path corresponding to an ID and just return it into the result. So I copy that result into term path here, and that's what allows this value to be copied down into the parent path of the next row. Okay. Next rule is delete descendants. So what I'm just doing here is I'm deleting anything below the current row, since if I select a new value, any values below it are no longer valid. So I'm just going to clear out anything below the current row. I'm using the position function and count to determine the row number of the current row, and then just deleting anything below it. And then I add one more row below this one, but this is conditional. It's I'm only going to add a row if the term path of the current row is not blank. If the current row is a blank value, then I don't want to add anything after it just yet. And also where term ID equals A25. So, well, what does that mean? To go back to this slide, we see that A25 is the ID of a term's parent. So the ID of the current row will only match one of the A25s in the term sets if it is the parent of something. So if it's not the parent of something, that means there are no levels below it, and we don't want to add another row. So this is how we know when to stop adding rows, when we've got to the bottom of the hierarchy. Okay. So yeah, let's look at that in action one more time. And just to show we're not working with smoke and mirrors here, let's look at Q roles. So right now we've got version 6, 7, and 8. Let's say I wanted to add version 9 right here. So I'll add version 9. Okay, added that. And I'll refresh the form. And there we've got our version 9. Okay, so up to this point we've talked about how to query term sets into your form, how to set up drop-downs to connect to them, and cascade down and drill down all the way down the hierarchy. So the last thing we want to talk about here is how to submit those values to a list. So the way to do that is pretty straightforward. I'm going to go to my list here. Oops. No, I want to go there. So I'll go to my leads list. And as I mentioned earlier, this leads list has two managed metadata columns. It's got product and edition. So the idea I had here would be to have one column for the top level selected at the top and another one for the level all the way at the bottom. So that would capture everything going from the top to the bottom. So the way to submit to this is very simple. Presumably most of you are familiar with QRules' ability to submit to lists. You set up a mapping in the mapping tool. It's pretty straightforward. And then all you need to do to submit to a managed metadata column is just put a mapping from one of your forms fields to this column. You don't have to put any special settings on the mapping or anything. As long as the ID is in that field, SharePoint will figure out what value that ID corresponds to and take care of it for you. So the way I'm actually handling that in my form is I have a field for product and a field for edition. And when on my submit button, I have a rule to get the product ID by just taking the term ID from the first row of that repeating group, the repeating group of drop-downs. And then for the edition ID, I'm just doing the same, but I'm taking the term ID from the last row. And one more thing about this form that's kind of nice is that this is, again, the forms viewer starter form, and it has some built-in validation fields that you can take care of. So what I did to make sure that the user had selected all the values they need to is to check that both the product ID and the edition ID fields are filled in. So here I've selected QRules. This last row is blank, so edition is going to be blank. In DBXL's case, I can select 2 rows, and then edition is going to be from that last blank row. So again, that's no good. I need to select a value here, and then I'm good. And I enter a customer name, and off it goes. So back to our list, we can see that item I just submitted using submit to SharePoint list, cooler customer, and there's the values I selected. And I've also set up a form URL here. This is basically I just concatenated together the URL for the submitted XML form that should go to a library. So when I click this, it opens up the submitted form in Forms here. An either nicer way to go about this would be to have everything in that library, which you can do. The trouble is that you can't map a field using promoted properties to a managed metadata column. But one way you can get around that is again to use submit to SharePoint list qrules command to submit to those columns. So basically you would submit to the library, query it to determine the ID of the item you just created, and then use that to submit your SharePoint, use the submit to SharePoint list command. It's a bit longer to set up, which is why I haven't included it in this demo, but you definitely have that option, and that's the route I would recommend going if you want to set up something like this. All right, so one more little tidbit here, which is separate from the demo I've been showing you so far, is we've got one little feature in forms in qrules that you should know about, which is called get terms by label. So this allows you to basically search for term sets based on a string value. So here we have DBXL and DBXL 3.2. You can search for QR, find qrules. Looks like form should have reset that value, but yeah, so that option is available as well if you want to add some sort of search stuff. Last bit to point out here is that as I mentioned toward the beginning, this stuff is all integrated into SharePoint's built-in search. So even though I submitted those values as IDs, if I want to find things that pertain to DBXL, I can just search for DBXL and it will find me those list items. Now, the ones I submitted during this demo aren't showing up because it takes SharePoint a while to do the search crawl and find stuff in the site, but it does eventually show up after 30-40 minutes, I'd think. And here's our item. I can click this again to open the form. So as you can see, we've been demoing in Forms Viewer this whole time. These features are not yet available in the public instance of Forms Viewer. This is sort of a sneak preview of these features. We're hoping to publish them out in the next few weeks. But just for anybody who's interested in using these in Forms Viewer, they are going to be available soon. And if you are using InfoPath Filler or InfoPath Form Services, the built-in SharePoint browser forms, qrules already supports these features on those platforms. So go ahead and start using them. So that's it for my presentation. Going to open up the floor to some Q&A. If for anybody that has questions, just let me know, and if not, we can call it a day.
A wonderful demo, Jimmy. I'm learning as you go, and I just want to ask the first question here, if you don't mind. When you're searching, why are term sets useful for search? Any comment on that?
That's a good question. To be honest, I think there's a lot more for me I need to learn about term sets to see everything they have to offer. But basically, it's sort of the impression I get is that they're just basically built into the whole search functionality. So if you want to look for them, they're right there. And yeah, I don't have a great answer to that question, but they are definitely recommended for searching.
Great, and yeah, just really impressive demo today. We went really deep, and I really like the way that you show the detail in the form and how to hook it up. Mm-hmm. And what are you going to be including in the package for the webinar attendees?
We'll be including this form. We also have a document explaining, it's PDF document explaining how to set up term sets. It goes through most of the stuff I've shown here, including the cascading dropdowns and creating the terms, and a few things I didn't show. So
it's impressive that it all works in Forms here with the filtering and everything like that, and there's no issues. The only features that are coming into Forms here, the next release, are going to be just those calls to get the term sets, right?
Well, we'll see. Depending on when the next release is, might have a couple other things in it, but yeah, these would be one of the big things.
Awesome job.
Thank you very much. And it doesn't look like we have any questions. There is one more little bit I had meant to show everybody, so anyone who's still sticking around. The neat thing about this taxonomy stuff, which I haven't dug into too deep, but you can localize them. So you can see I have set up this taxonomy for English and Japanese, and for just one of the tags I've gone ahead and added Japanese text for forms viewer. So part of term sets is they allow you to query them in different languages. So I haven't actually tried this, but I believe if we queried them in Japanese instead of English, we'd get forms viewer in Japanese instead of English. So that's a really cool feature included in this stuff. All right, so I think we haven't gotten any questions yet, so it doesn't look like there will be any. So I'll just go ahead and thank everybody for attending today. Please fill out the survey at the end, and we hope to see you back next week.